This is Fam Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Yahne Sneed. How you doing today, this morning?
Uh, I'm doing great. I am definitely blessed. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I want to let people know that we're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We'll be on all the platforms where you can listen to or watch a podcast later today. We also are on the platform called Newsly. You see that little icon up there that says listen on Newsly. For those of you who use the coupon code of Ghost, you can check that out for 30 days for free. We'll be on there. We're a featured podcast on that platform. And we also have Yahya Sneed's URL. Now that you don't have to remember or type that. That will be fully clickable on all the platforms that we're on. So you'll be able to click right through on that. And then also today we wanted to talk about the topic is from victim to victor, cultivate emotional resilience and empowerment skills. So we're going to talk about that. But before we get into that, one of the questions we always ask our guest is um, what motivates you and why do you do what you do?
Great starter. What motivates me? Let's see. I think it really be my childhood. That motivates me to really give back to the community, give back to my daughters. I didn't have a easy childhood. A lot of things in my childhood was rough, and during that whole time, I think from the age of 7 all the way up until college, I didn't really have much support. So it was just basically me going through my life trying to pick my own self up. Therapy wasn't helping. I had a lack of love in my family, bullying. So it was just basically me trying to conquer this world. So when I got to be able to graduate from college, get my degree in social work, and I try to see how I can fit in, the only thing I could think about is giving back from my past. If I can have some wisdom bestowed on someone and plant that seed, I feel like I can help make that change, at least not in my lifetime or my daughter's lifetime, but maybe my grandchildren's lifetime. I can see that change that I wanted in my life, be there for someone, support them, show empathy and compassion. So that was motivating me to do what I have to do, and which is being a coach and a keynote speaker, just sharing my testimony of how I felt low, depressed, and how I came out of that. And that is what I'm continuing to do.
So how did you decide that you wanted to be like a keynote speaker or a life coach? Is it because you went through these things and then you felt like you could be a teacher?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I was in this program called Abbott Leadership Institute. It's a very good program in Newark, New Jersey, out from Rutgers University. And during that time, my mom, she felt as though, because Newark was pretty bad, Newark, New Jersey was pretty bad. So my mom felt as though she wanted me out of the street. She didn't want me to just be around all bad behaviors and influences. Because during that time, I was struggling a lot with what I was dealing with. And this is around high school because I just came back from PA with a horrible situation I had to go through. So my mom was like, well, you need an outlet to express yourself. So when I went to the program called Abbott Leadership Institute Youth Medium Symposium, I became a mentor. And I realized how what I went through is not all bad if I can help somebody else go through it, because we all go through the similar situations. Maybe not be the same, but we do go through similar situations. So when I became a mentor and I saw the effect that I had using my life experiences and my wisdom and my support and being a champion in somebody else's life, and so how that transformed them, I have still close connections with those that I mentor. So, being an adult, how can do more than just mentor, because mentor for me was great, but
Yeah.
that was really one-on-one experience. I wanted a global experience. I wanted to help as many people I could outside of where I lived at. So coaching was one of those things that I can tap into and reach a broader audience and help them out. In 2000 in 2002, I started my business called Relentless Phoenix, where I am helping individuals cultivate emotional resilience and mental clarity by using my life experiences to help them navigate through what they had to go through in their adversity, so I can help them affect that dynamic and the change that they wish to see. So once I started my coaching business, I felt as though there was still a need for me to speak about my life, because I feel as though there's not a lot of individuals that's confident enough to say, I've been through something. Let me be naked with you to share this truth, because I
Mhm.
believe on the opposite side of this truth, you can learn something from it. I do believe that. I'm okay with being vulnerable about my past and the things that I have been through. So I wanted somebody else to be okay with that too, because sometimes what I have noticed is that we shy away from our past because we feel embarrassed, shamed, or what have you. And I'm here to speak about, hey, I'm with you with that. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed. However, that's your past. What are you going to do now to change your past? What are you going to do now to overcome it? You know, your past is gone. Your future's never here. You only have your present moment to make that change. And you know, for the longest, I didn't understand that. I felt like I was chained to my past, like the things that I had went through. I felt like I was chained to my past. It identified me. And I was put with all these titles and therapy and this and that, and I was tired of being chained to it. So if I can't get to the other side, I want to help somebody else. So being a coach, being a keynote speaker, just sharing, you know, my positive experiences on the things that I've been through, you know, all that cultivated together to be here to help someone. So I felt like I can give back, because of the things that I mentioned.
Well, I think it's really important, the idea of emotional resilience, and maybe we can dive into that more. But I think it has to do with like being able to be vulnerable and
Yeah,
also be able to like express that like not everybody's perfect. You know, everybody tries to put on these masks with social media. They're trying to create these
yep,
perfect images. A lot of this stuff is fake. A lot of this stuff is like manipulated with Photoshop, and it's like
yep,
AI, and so people don't really see the real person, and so they get these like totally objectified or idealized visions that then they wonder why they can't match it because it's not real. And what I like, being a
yeah,
songwriter, what I like about songwriting is you tap into what's vulnerable. The best songwriters actually express something about themselves. They give something that's kind of like a hard thing to do, like a hard truth, and they put it into
yep.
the music. They put that out there, and you can get hurt, but that's part of life. You got to kind of reveal to be honest. And I think the problem we have today is a lot of people see all these idealized images, all these idealized visions, and they don't want to be real. And then that's never going to solve a problem if you're not real.
Absolutely, we definitely have to not be scared of the pain that comes with life, because for me, I was like that. I was like, I don't want to face this pain. This pain hurts. This pain is agonizing. It could be emotional pain, but it felt like as if I stubbed my toe, like the pain was actually real. And we have to lean into that and not be scared to say, hey, I'm hurt. This sucks. I gotta lay in the bed for a couple of days until I can get over this and not run away from it. Because when you run away from it, all you're doing is bottling up. And it's only going to take that one moment that maybe just something so simple, it will snap. You will snap because you feel like, I reached my breaking point. That's because you bottling up your emotions. Emotional resilience is not easy to do. It's really difficult to do. I can say that, with a smile on my face, yeah, I have emotional resilience, but that's not an easy thing to do. You definitely have to lean into your pain, into your sorrow, into your embarrassment, and say, hey, what can I learn from what I just been through to make sure I don't go through it again? That's the definition of emotional resilience: learning from your mistakes and not letting it get you down, and then learning
Mhm.
from it to not do it again. And then on the thing I want
Yeah.
to speak about when it comes to all these fake profiles and this whole image that this media is playing, all of it, like you said, is definitely fake. And that's what infuriates me the most. It's like, why, who, not even why, who are you trying to oppress? Who, what human, because that's what we are, what human are you trying to oppress to get attention? Is it somebody in Hollywood? Like, who are you trying to oppress so bad that you have to risk losing your identity for someone else who's doing the exact same thing? No one out here is saying, hey, this is me, I have a gut, be okay with that. Or this is me, I don't have a six-pack, and be okay with that. But we out here saying we have to have this flat tummy, or we have got to wear this makeup and this collagen on our lips and be extra for someone who don't even know you alive.
Yeah, well, I've always been, you know, about the real, and
Yeah,
and the problem is like today, like in a lot of forms, like these computers have gotten people into not dealing with the flow state or the present moment. I'm a kind of into jazz, and what I
yeah,
like about fusion jazz is you kind of let it be. You listen to like things that Miles Davis or Herbie Hancock said. They used to be scared of hitting the wrong notes, and then they realized there are no wrong notes. Those wrong
never.
notes actually are opportunities. And when you don't go on the plan and you let something happen, you start to trust yourself. Like when you're a really good artist, you trust that if you hit a note that's unexpected, you can handle that and you'll
Yeah,
make it into something beautiful. You don't go and say, "Well, I got to stop the whole thing and start all over again. I'm a terrible. I'm a bad." You start thinking all these things. Oh, I shouldn't even be on stage. Then you get these limiting beliefs, and the problem is we have this age where things are so perfect that they don't sound real. They don't look real. And then people think that's what it is. And it's like, well, how come it doesn't feel like James Brown? How come it doesn't feel like Curtis Mayfield? How come it doesn't feel like Dinah Ross? Because it's like you're not letting it be real,
yeah.
right? So if
And
you
then
don't have emotion and it's just kind of just all controlled, then it's not
yeah.
you get a whole generation that doesn't feel the realness.
I definitely agree. And the whole thing of it doesn't feel like Miles Davis or I love instrumental jazz too. You give me a saxophone or piano and I can listen to that for hours and hours. So I definitely understand that it's flow. But the thing is, you can't say, "Oh, it's not like Miles Davis." You're not supposed to be Miles Davis. That's the reason why you having that hiccup. That's the reason why you having that depression. Is because you're not supposed to be them. You're supposed to be who you are and have the story
You,
whatever
yeah,
that looks like for you. If you get inspired by Miles Davis, that's great. Pull something that he does. If you get inspired by my favorite is Mario Meadows. If you get inspired by him, pull something from him and then
yeah,
make it your own. But you overreaching by saying I don't sound like him. You're not supposed to, honey. And that's the thing. And that's the beauty about humanity. We all different. We all can take from someone else and add on to them. And we have to let ourselves be okay with being us and making mistakes and learning from those and not say, "Hey, I want to be there." You're not supposed to, because if it was meant for you, then it would be for you, and you wouldn't have to say, "I'm not there," because the universe will make it so, and it will flow in your direction. And then I also want to say, when it comes down to
but I think it's
that negative
yeah. Go
self-talk,
ahead.
yeah, I was going to say, when it comes down to that negative self-talking, that is the root of all evil for me. When you're trying to be your own best friend, you don't have time to listen to all the enemies or all the little negative demons on your shoulders, like, "Oh, you're not good, you're not this." When it really comes down to how bad do you want it? Do you want to listen to them, or do you want to listen to your inner self saying that you have purpose?
Yeah, I think a lot of problems are like, you're getting into comparison trap. And so you get a lot of people that just clone. Like, Beyonce's already there, right? Jay-Z's already there. If you just
Yeah,
spend all your time trying to do that, well, they already did it and they're probably going to do it better than you. So what you should try to do is like, what is your fear is like your original work doesn't match because you're doing it in the comparison trap. And that's the same thing with yourself. You go to the party, you try to be somebody that you think people at the party are going to like instead of being you, right? And then you don't feel authentic, and people are like, "What's going on?" Because you're not confident with your real self because you don't think you should be there. And
yeah,
and the thing is,
that's
like, what you find with the people who kind of push it, when you do something that's unique, you're kind of on the bleeding edge, and there's a risk that people are going to say they don't like it, and then that you take that personal, and then you don't want to present. You rather get kind of go along to get along, which is to clone whatever is popular. And that's easy, but it's hard because then you push it down and you get the blow ups because you're not being yourself. And so this really
yeah,
goes down to the whole heart of it. It's like you do need to have this emotional resilience that if somebody says they don't like your authentic self, they say, well, their law of attraction, there'll be people that do, and there are people that don't. And you kind of
yeah.
go past the people that don't, and you allow yourself to be. And then people that do resonate with you will pick it up.
Yeah, I tell myself all the time, like, you, by you having a delusion, and this is a delusion that everyone has to like you, you're really going to suffer a lot of depression by trying to please others. What I tell myself and my best friend, I'm like, I'm a lemon. Some like lemons, some don't. But you don't see a lemon trying to be an apple. It's still going to be a lemon at the end of the day, and you're going to make your lemonade. And those that enjoy lemonade are going to enjoy lemonade. You don't see a crossbreed of a lemon saying, "Hey, I'm too tart. I want to go to an apple." That doesn't happen. The same thing with humans. Hey, move along. They don't like you, then you have to have that ability to say, "It's your loss. I know I'm great. I know I have this purpose. And if you don't like me, then that's totally fine. But I'm going to find somebody, or not even find somebody. I'm going to connect with somebody eventually in my life that's going to appreciate what I have to offer." And you have to have that resilience to keep moving forward and find like-minded individuals. Maybe that's not the scene for you. Maybe you have to go to poetry scene if you like poetry to find somebody. Maybe corporate is not for you. Maybe you have to go to a diner and a cafe or some type of small event to find your like-minded individuals. Trying to push yourself, you're going to lose your identity, and that's a trait of growth.
Yeah, 'cause I think a lot of times it's like that law of attractions. Like everybody puts out a vibe, and you can kind of feel it, right? So you go in a room and you feel like somebody's got the bad vibe, and they're giving you the bad vibe. Like you should trust that, right? You should
Yeah.
understand that we put out these frequencies, and you can feel it. And it's people say, "Oh, that's foo foo," but it's not, because you can kind of. So if you put out your authentic self, there are people that are going to come to you. You're going to get opportunities, but if you're scared to do that, then you're not really putting out that frequency. So you're going to get a lot of dissonance. You're going to get a lot of noise. You're not going to feel right. And you're going to put yourself into places that you actually don't fit.
Yeah,
Where if you're more
exactly.
authentic, you'll find the places where you do fit. But you can't just bottle it up. You have to kind of put it out there. And that's the hard part, because people are kind of told to not be themselves. From a very young age, you get parents, you get grandparents, you get your,
Yeah,
whatever your religion, they might try to force you into a box. And a
yeah,
lot of
that's
problems is that you
exactly.
don't, not everybody fits in a box. So like
Yeah.
right from the start, you're being told like, well, you're kind of odd, so maybe you shouldn't do that.
That's definitely my story. My mom, religion folks. I'm spiritual now. I was once religious, but I couldn't fit in that box. I couldn't be perfect. I couldn't. I'm very. I like to challenge things, like to question things, and they say you gotta do this, you gotta do that. I was I had leaders in my life. I call them fake leaders at this point that try to say, "Hey, walk this way. If you wear this stuff, then maybe you get noticed this better. Or if you say this or you act this way." And it wasn't me. I was losing myself when I was younger. I was losing myself because I thought the leaders, they knew what they was talking about. I really thought these leaders that I
Mhm.
was around knew what they talking about. Why would they not know? They older than me. That's what I thought in the beginning. But I have a quote that says um age is just a number. You don't
Yeah.
know. It doesn't justify anything. Age does not justify anything. What you learn from your experiences justifies your growth. That is my quote. And I had to learn that the hard way, because I'm like, I'm losing myself trying to be something I'm not, trying to follow them. And that's not wasn't who I was, and they didn't know who they was talking about. So I had to really challenge all of that, and it can be scary to wake up one morning and be like, wait, this is not me. I don't recognize myself in the mirror. I've been trying to fit in, and it's definitely not me. I definitely been through that, and it's the hardest thing to bounce back from, because you're like, I don't even know who I am to even know which way to go, because I was so removed from every which way. Like you
Mhm.
said, religion, leaders, my mom. Like it was definitely difficult to bounce back. But then when you find yourself, that's that resilience. Ain't nothing going to stop me from not loving myself anymore, because it took me a while to get here.
Yeah, because I mean, if you look at a lot of the famous people, like Dr. King, there was a lot of religious leaders around him that were telling him he shouldn't do what he was doing. They were saying, "Oh, you're pushing it too far," right? And it tends to
Yeah,
happen. Like even
yeah,
like you think about like Muhammad Ali. People were saying, "Oh, you're pushing it. You're doing it too far. You're doing." Like, but sometimes you got to be where you are. And it's like there was a quote where Ali was saying, "Dude, it's like I'm at this position where I'm looking at people, and people are telling me I shouldn't do what I'm doing. Oh, Ali, don't do this, don't do this." And it's like you kind of got to feel like I know where I should be. And he was confident enough. even though I like, well, I don't have like, I'm not even supposed to be where I am according to them because I don't have the education, I don't have the right color, I don't have the right
Yeah.
religion, I don't have what. But like that just shows, like, yeah, people want to put you in that box. And there's a lot
Mhm.
of people that make it that don't have the qualifications that they say they're supposed to have. They don't have
Yeah.
the degrees. They didn't come from the country club. They didn't come from here. They don't got the right skin tone. They don't have the right sex. Whatever. There's all kinds of examples that they trying to follow the paradigm. That's just like a roadmap, but you don't always have to follow that path. You can go to follow the path less traveled, which I think
That's what I
the
say.
creative mind, whether you're a musician or whatever, I think the creative mind is inherent in all human beings, where you start
Yeah.
to ask why, what, when, how, that you don't just take the word from some leader, that you start to ask, like a scientist, like, well,
Yeah.
why? How does that work? Does that really work that way? You start to question it. And the people
Yeah.
don't like that because they want you to follow in the paradigm. But as soon as you start pushing on it, then you can see the weaknesses in their arguments. And it's like, well, why not? you know?
I totally agree with everything you're saying. It's crazy to me that we can't challenge stuff and be like, you know what, just let it be what it is. It's like, well, why do we have to let it be what it is? Like, where's on the other side of you questioning whatever? Like you said, religion. Why do we have to be so silent about questioning things? Like, it shouldn't just be let it be what it is, because then that is a whole lot of power control, and that's a lot of brainwash. This is how it's supposed to be. And for me, I personally believe that is not supposed to be that way. We all have our different stories, and we all come together on this path, and we branch out, and we can divert and come back to the path, or we can just branch out and be on our own. But yeah, like you said, all of what you said, I agree on. We have to definitely challenge the status quo, because that's what we rightfully deserve as humanity. Let me get the good and the bad. Let me get the ugly and the pretty. Let me get the subjective bias. Let me get the objective truth, and let me come with my own conclusion on what is best for me, and not necessarily what's best for you and your comfort.
Yeah, a lot of times people don't understand there's like a balance of power. And there's
Yeah.
certain people to get into leadership, then they just like they're living on power. But they try to
Yeah.
tell you that's the
Yeah.
truth. Well, it's just a belief. And their belief system is designed to put people to be like in subjugation to them and their beliefs. And so it doesn't matter. You have multiple types of religions or whatever power structures are set up that way. And it really gets down to, the individuality and your right to be, an individual, where a lot of times people say they want that and then they find themselves all day you're trying to fit in. Well, if you really about freedom, then why are you trying to fit in?
Right, right. I totally agree. Oh my goodness, I totally agree with that. I
you know,
definitely agree with that.
it's a
hundred
mindset.
percent,
I've always, with
100% agree with
philosophy, like I like to, I was reading all kinds of philosophical stuff, like Nietzsche and Sartre, and then stuff from the East, and stuff, African ideas, Francis Fan, and like you start thinking. And I think the problem is a lot of people aren't thinking because they're being spoon fed, clips and 30-second bites and influencers telling them that, these 10 steps, this 12 steps, this diet, this fad, this clothes, and they're not using their critical thinking. With
yeah,
everybody, you
yeah,
don't have to go to college to have critical thinking. You can think about all the people in prison that learn critical thinking. Malcolm X
yeah,
learned like in prison. You don't have he
yeah,
got an education that was equivalent or exceeded other people. So you can learn just by sheer will of wanting to
yeah.
change your life. You don't have to have the degree to do it.
But it really comes down to how bad do you want it. Some, like you said, want to be spoon fed that easy way, and don't really want to take the willingness to read. Like for me, that was like me. Like, okay, give me the 10 steps. But then when you realize those 10 steps is not going to work for you because you're not them. That's, some of the steps that you see on Google or whatever have you listen to podcasts, those steps work for them. And then when you go try and you're mad, like, it didn't work for me. It wasn't supposed to. You're supposed to get some of the what they said their steps was, you know what I mean, and then work it into your life the way your life is meant to work it out. And when you get mad, like it didn't work, or Weight Watchers or whatever, like this stuff is not working for me. There's other things that's not the be all end all. It's really not. It's other things. That's why there is Google. That's why there are books. We don't need a shortcut to life. You want a shortcut to life, then your willingness that you're referring to is not strong enough to really push forward and into enlightenment.
Well, I think what I like about life coaches, is that they tend to, the best coaches, like, will look at the individuals they're working with and realize everybody's a little different. So they kind of take it case by case, person by person, and they
Yes.
have overall things they've learned. Like, we are a summation of everything we've experienced and learned, and every day you continue to learn. And so, like, there's a tendency to want to put everything into, oh, this 10 steps, these 5 things, these 5 top things, and that's just kind of simplifying things. And so you can use that as a guide, but it's not the end all. And I think
Yeah.
people make the mistake where they think it's the end all, and then they try to fit people in a box. And
Yeah.
and and that's where I think there's a lot of mistakes. I mean, there's medicine mistakes like that. People are starting to realize, even when it comes to medicine, different types of people, different groups of people, there's different solutions. African Americans might have different needs. They might have different aspects, and people are like making assumptions. It's like, well, you never shouldn't assume. You should like take people
Yeah.
case by case.
Yeah, exactly. When I was a social worker, what I was taught that one individual is complex. You got their environment, you got outside their environment, you got their internal forces that they're fighting with, their demons or what have you. So you definitely have to look at all the dynamics. How is your childhood? How is your relationship with your mom and your dad? How do you, when you think about this situation, how do you see the situation? What perspective do you have? Your fears. Let's challenge your fears. What is that chain that's stopping you mentally from moving forward? And we start with where they are at, because like you said, I can't come in with the idea of how I'm going to help you, because I'm not you. You have to let me know, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. Okay, let's start where you at. Do you know this step? Okay, no. All right, so let's dive deep into this, and let's build those building blocks for you. So therefore, when you're not at my sessions, you have something that you can lean on that fits your individual identity, not something that I just created because like, okay, depression, do this and you'll be fine. It may not work for you. So it depends on who that individual are, that I work with. And you basically, as a life coach, you just being a champion in front of them. You being there, their support to move forward. You're not going to do the work for them. So you definitely have to make sure whatever work you want them to do for themselves, they okay with, they are comfortable with, because at the end of the day, you can't hold their hand all the time. So you definitely have to start with they at, because we're complex. We're very complex.
Yeah, I think a lot of times there's like, underserved groups, like, minorities and women. If we go to like a general practice and you go to like, somebody that doesn't have your experience, right? That's where you think I went to like therapists that weren't, African American, and they never could get it. Like if you try to talk to them about like racism, like they never experience it, so they don't really understand it. They
Yeah.
maybe have a textbook view, but then they have biases, and then they don't get it. And so if you go to somebody that doesn't understand, like being a woman, being a minority, being somebody that in a
Yeah.
different religion than they are, right? And they just go by the textbook
Yeah.
example without listening. Because I think listening skills really is the big thing. Because a lot of times we find that we talk past each other, right? And people don't really take in what people say. Did they really actually take in what you just said, or are they already thinking about the response they want to make to what you said?
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. I say that you hear to response, but you listen to understand, and that is so deep, because it's easy. Like, huh? What you say? Oh, I heard something that you said. I wasn't really paying attention. But when you actually actively listening, that means each word that they're saying, you're dissecting it. Like, why would you say this choice of word? Why would you say this? And then instead of saying, oh, I'm going to respond afterwards, maybe not respond. Active listening is all about digesting what the other individual has said, so you can have appropriate response, not just some organic response because they hit a key word like, okay, let me speak about this. No, you actually have to sit there and listen. And I was in therapy too, and I was in two different type of therapies. I had I well the one therapist said I had borderline personality disorder, so they just wanted me to get fed pills. I'm like, oh, this will work. And it's like, no, I actually don't need pills just because you said a higher diagnosis. Like, won't you sit down and actually, maybe it's from my childhood, maybe there's something that you can provide me that does not have to do with pills. Like, I don't want that. But they're like, no, it will work for you because, I seen test results that work on somebody else. I'm not that somebody else. I hate titles because of that reason. It's like you group up individuals based on a certain title. And it's like, okay, since that title's in the front of your head, now I can program my mind to say, okay, this is what you are based on my experiences with other individuals. And that's just not the case. So no, and I want to say with full disclosure too, disclaimer that if you go to therapy, I'm not knocking you. It's just caution everything and just see how it fits for you. But for therapy, for me, it necessarily work out.
Well, a lot of times there's like, people don't understand, but there's a history of like scientific like racism where because of the biases and not fully understanding people and really not listening and not thinking that what you say is valid. If you come to an individual that doesn't have any experience with your group and has a bias, they just like, well, I don't believe racism is real. So if you come into that, or they don't believe sexism is real, they think it doesn't exist. So you come into that situation, they're going to say, well, you've got a problem. I got to give you a pill because you're delusional, because the society isn't that way. I'm like, really, it's not. So it's like, you got to understand, like, sometimes you're going in, they may have the PhD and they have all their certificates, but they might have a bias and they're not really listening, and they're not going to listen. So if they don't listen, they're not hearing you, and they're going to come up with the pill or with something that doesn't fit.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, you got to be careful.
Yeah, I definitely understand that society is very subjective reality. That's what I see. It's not objective at all. Society is a very subjective reality, and I will caution anyone to believe this is the truth. It's far from it. It's far from the truth.
And empowerment is really like if you have to decide, like when you start to ask people, like some people say, well, I want $1 million. So what is it they really want? Is it that they want to be in control of their destiny? It might not take $1 million to do that, right? If they want to feel comfortable inside themselves, when you get the $1 million, you're probably gonna, if you're not comfortable inside yourself, you're still not going to be comfortable inside yourself. You're gonna have $1 million and then still not be comfortable with you. So
Yeah.
what is it that you're actually looking for?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Before we even get to the $1 million, what was the need for you to say you want the $1 million? You woke up one day and said, okay, I want $1 million. Okay, what happened yesterday that kickstarted that? Because it didn't happen yesterday or 2 days ago. So what happened? Did you realize you woke up one morning and was like, okay, you know what? This is not the type of environment I want to live in. Like for me, before I started coaching, during that time I had my little one, and I'm like, I have 2 kids here, and I'm not where I want to be at. How can I rectify that? It wasn't $1 million, but it was definitely I wanted my financial freedom. So what did that look like? Is it $1 million? Is it $1 billion? Or is it not living paycheck to paycheck? And for me, it was just didn't want to live paycheck to paycheck. So okay, so how can I use my skills or anything to foster the reality I wish to see? So you have to start small, and like you said, if it's not internal, if you didn't fix your internal, you're going to forever want more money, because money or whatever that goal is you think you want, because most times we don't really know what we want. We have an idea of what we want because of what our perception told. Oh, they got these sneakers, they cost $1,000. I want those. I want to be rich enough to get some sneakers. You probably don't want that. You probably just want the opportunity to buy something expensive or buy something that you haven't bought before because you came from poverty. So we actually have to look at what exactly we want, and go for that. But money's not going to make you warm at night. You're going to still toss and turn because internally you haven't figured out internally what you want. You're very external with all the factors, because definitely money, cars, shoes, hair, all that's external factors that's trying to fill the void inside. So you have to internally look as why you want this, why you want that, and then from there build your own momentum, to keep to keep going to whatever that goal is you have in mind. But like you said, internally is definitely something that we don't do. We rather fill the void up externally with stuff than really get down to the nitty gritty of what's going on with us.
Well, that kind of goes to like, spirituality, like inner peace, feeling like centered. Like if you feel like your life's out of control, or like maybe you're looking for peace of mind. But
Yeah,
if you're always looking for external inputs, you're not going to get the peace of mind because there's still going to
yeah,
be, you're going to be apprehensive, you're going to be nervous, you're going to be freaking out because probably like if the goal is $1 million and you hit 800,000, then you're like, well, I didn't hit it. Well, I'm not good enough. Then you're like, you probably still got
yeah,
all these things to do with self-worth and not understand self-love. And then we think that's foo-foo. He's like, you didn't want the material result. So I think a
yeah.
lot of times the material result is something you can touch or look at, but the internal result is harder to measure. And maybe you've been told it's foo-foo. It's not, it is, oh, you don't got to worry about that.
Mhm.
And I think that's where people, they build up these walls because they're told, well, you shouldn't be thinking that way. Well,
Yeah,
sometimes, you got to be open enough to realize that the internal is a lot of work and it's not
yeah.
easily satisfied by external things.
Yeah, and when I was little, that's what definitely happened to me because my self worth, well, not my self worth, my self love, because like I said, I had mostly leaders very negative, trying to pin like pull and pry me to do different things. Like I said earlier, I had lost my identity because of that. So empowerment, believing in myself, that I can do. It took a lot of work. Empowerment is not an easy thing to do, especially when your environment is telling you that you're not good. How are you going to give yourself the encouragement to move forward when your environment is saying that you're not good or you're lacking something that society deems you need? And that's exactly what happened. So I linked on religion a lot, and I lost my, like I said, full disclaimer, if anyone is in religion, then good for you. I'm not knocking it. But for me, like I said, I'm very spiritual. And for religion, it was hard for me to really be my full self, because I kind of felt like in religion, like if you make a mistake, God don't like it. But spirituality is saying, hey, you made a mistake, forgive yourself. It's okay. Have that self-love and that and
Mhm.
that room to grow. Have that help, have that
Yeah.
self-love to know, hey, I made a mistake. Let me learn from this. When I was in, during when I was religious, I was Baptist, and it was like so many things that you have to follow, or you're deemed unfit, or whatever the case may be, to like keep moving forward in
Yeah.
God's good
Shaming.
graces
Yeah.
and all that. Yeah,
All the
very much
shaming.
shaming, very much so. And it wore on me a lot, until I woke up one day and I'm like, some of y'all hypocrites. Y'all doing the exact same thing y'all telling me not to do. So it kind of opened my eyes up to the more spiritual realm. And when I started the mystic and understanding who Yeshua was, and it literally last year I transitioned, because I was like, I feel much calmer internally with who I am spiritually than I ever was when I was in practicing, religion. And I practice a lot of religions to find that connection internally, because at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want that eternal peace. That's why we look for the external car or whatever have you to fill it up, because we're looking for that internal peace. And when I found it spiritually, although I wasn't materialistic before, I definitely came less materialistic now, because I was like, it's really not what you have outside of yourself. Because when you lay down and close your eyes, you're dreaming. You're with one with yourself. And if you're not one with yourself when you're laying down, that's why those nightmares and tossing and turning at night comes from, because you're not aligned. You're not aligned spiritually with yourself. So therefore, you feel like when you wake up, you have to gain more and more and more. And it just simply aligning with yourself and really trying to project what you want internally. And then, like energy, I believe in energy. When you give out that energy and say, I'm the best, I'm confident, I'm this. That's what I had to do. I had to tell myself that. I had to look back at my past and tell myself, hey, I'm here because of myself. It wasn't because somebody encouraged me. It wasn't because of this. It wasn't because of that. I'm here because I picked myself up. I woke up. So therefore, that empowerment you cultivate that empowerment by saying, hey, excuse my language, that stuff was bad in the past, and now I can see that I can definitely move forward with guiding myself forward because I seen that I overcame. So that's really what empowerment is. Internally realizing that you are more than your past because you're still alive. If you wasn't meant to be more, then you wouldn't be here willing to share and wake up in the morning and be and have that what's the word I'm looking for? That encouragement to keep moving forward. If you wasn't meant to be here or have purpose, your past doesn't define you. So you have to have that encouragement, that empowerment to keep moving.
Well, a lot of people are critical of people that have confidence or feel good because they're like they want to shame them into thinking that they're in, thinking that they have all these defects, right? And so I think that it gives power to other people. So you kind of have to understand power dynamics. And I was a sociology major in school, and there's a lot of power dynamics that will tend to make you not actualize
Yeah.
because there are different groups in society. Well, their goal is to have people that follow, and people that
Yeah.
follow they follow because they don't think they're good enough. So they tend to follow something they think is higher, and they never think they get shamed into it without feeling,
Exactly.
and they're kind of told that like, well, if you have that ego, it's like, well, how can you, why you don't deserve to be on stage? The leader deserves to be on stage. So only the
Yeah.
leadership should be on the stage, and you should be in the crowd. And so when you start to flip that, well, that's a different power dynamic.
You want me to get some tissue? I'm sorry. Hold on one moment. Sorry. I'm sorry about that. I needed some tissue. But yeah, I totally agree with you with that. Definitely agree with that. Being told that you can't have confidence is really interesting. That people look at that in a negative way. That you can't have confidence because that's what you want. Everyone wants confidence, right? Everyone wants to feel their best self. And then you have individuals that has a negative connotation to having confidence, right? So it's like, why can't I love myself? Why can't I feel like I'm the bad one? Why can't I feel just as much as you feel? You feel confident. Why can't I feel that way? I get that we need individuals to what's the word I'm looking for? Follow. I get that. But at the end of the day, we all can be a champion in our own island. We all can do what we need to do to make this world a better place. And I feel confident. And a lot of individuals don't like that. They like, oh, why you feel so confident? Why you feel, entitled? I don't feel entitled. There's a difference between being confident and conceited. I'm confident in things that I have achieved. So I know where I stand and I know the values that I have, but I'm not conceited where I'm belittling somebody else or that power and control dynamic. I'm just confident in my own right, which everyone should.
Yeah, it's just the ability to have that, like everybody's a star, in their own light. Like we're all shining, like we're all doing frequencies, but people are kind of told like, well, you shouldn't, think that you have those aspirations because it's egotistical. And it's really
Yeah.
not. It's like if just because you choose to follow your path, because you don't choose to be a follower. And a lot of people don't like that because it's like, you get a lot of haters. As soon as you put out something that's authentically you, you'll get
Yeah.
tons of people that say, well, that's not good.
Yeah.
That's not
Yeah.
right. And it's like, that's just the consequences of making a decision. As soon as you make a decision, there are going to be consequences to that decision. Once you make the decision that you're going to follow your path, whether you're not following somebody else's path, then they're going to people say, well, you should be following the other path.
I
But
agree.
that's going to be a reality, and he's like, well, you have to live with that. You find a way. So where those people might not align with you anymore, you might
Yeah.
get law of attraction. You get this other group of people that do align with you, and so
Yeah,
like
but
you said,
one
you're like a lemon, and you're not gonna be the same. apple. We're gonna be with the
It's the truth, because not everyone is gonna rock with you, and that's okay. Confidence breeds growth. Like, why would you want to self-doubt yourself? Well, we should be confident enough to know we can do this, or confident enough to know we can do that. If you're threatened by my confidence, then it's nothing to do with me. It has something to do with you. What is going on with you where you feel threatened by somebody else's confidence? Why do you feel threatened that somebody else have to be in self-doubt? Or you must have a void. That's how I switch it up. It's like when someone negatively comes at me and I know I'm just the sweetest thing ever, but you still had this negative thing about me, something to do with you. What about you are causing you to feel negative about my presence? Because my presence is threatening you some type of way, especially when I'm not even doing anything but being confident. It's something about you that you feel threatened about. What's going on internally that you need a therapist for? You need somebody to talk to, or something that you got to fix. It's a void or emptiness inside of you that you feel threatened.
there's also like there's an issue with like like with men. A lot of times men don't like some men don't like it when a woman is in a leadership role because they're kind of stuck in the old world and they can't stand like with a woman executives or women like business people. It's like because she should be like subjected to me because I'm reading this in this piece of book. This book says that she's supposed to follow me. I'm like, well, you know what? Like that's the old school, and this is like the new school. And it's nothing
Yeah.
like why can't you be happy for her? Why does
Yeah.
she have to be in subjugation to you? And it's like it's the same thing. It's like where I could walk in a room with a bunch of like Silicon Valley guys, and I'm the only guy that looks like me. They don't think I should be there because they think they should all look like Bill Gates. Like, well, that's their problem. That's their problem. I'm a software guy, and most of the time when I show up, there's a bunch of guys that Bill Gates kind of guys, and I'm the
Yeah.
only guy that looks like me. And they were kind
Yeah.
of like, oh, are you here because of affirmative action, or are you here because you know what?
Oh
That's your
my
problem.
gosh.
I've been doing this for
This
30. I'm doing this because of 30 years. It's like you got your own bias, you got your own problems. That's your problem. It's not my problem. Like you deal
yeah.
with it.
Pretty much, right? And I get hated on because of that. I'm gonna just say two things. When I be like, okay, and I don't care, and it's like, well, you should care about what I have to say. And it's like, you entitled. Why should I care about where you see I should be placed at, or where my journey at? You're not walking my shoes. If you knew my story, you'd be okay with me having this confidence, because it took me a while to get here. And then when it comes to this whole male domination thing, it's like I find it very attractive if a male take a back seat and, like, let their women, rock and be the leader, because at the end of the day, we're all equal. Like, there's no such thing as this matriarchy of this male dominance thing. I'm not for sure where it came from. I can say religion, but it's fine when a woman leads. You know what I mean? It's not always have to be a man's world. We see that in politics today, how this the government is acting when it's a man's world. So, having a
Yeah.
woman lead may be a beneficial to society, to see, maybe, question what it looks like for a woman to lead, or a woman to have, the front end of making decisions.
But I think people should be able to do what they're capable of doing.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a lot of people have these like preconceived biases. Well, this group can't do this group can do this, and then they get resentful because the world is shifting and the
Yeah.
different groups of people are getting access to levers, and they think, oh, they shouldn't have that. And it's across the board, multiple things, and it's really because they can't get a handle on the changing world. And the thing is, like, everything evolves, everything
Yeah.
changes. What
Everything. No.
was yesterday isn't always going to be that way. And some people get scared because they're comfortable with a paradigm, but they're not comfortable with the reality of, like, what, like, there's lots of people that can do that. Not only this group of people should be president,
Yeah.
right?
I
But
agree.
there's some people with them, well, it's been that way for 300 years, so it should be that way. I'm like, really?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I get that a lot. Like, where did you come from? With this and that. You're like, yeah, my story is not going to say how I got here. It's really not. But we definitely have to. I don't know. I me being black, me being a woman, you definitely got strikes against me. But those are all titles. Those are all titles. We have to look at the heart of the individual, where they came from, and definitely try to manifest and support them, because we can't keep saying, I want to be stuck in the past. The past is no longer here. The nature, spirituality, what it taught me, that everything is evolving. Everything is ever changing. Nothing's going to stay the same. Even blades of grass is not the same. A leaf on a tree is not the same. We all, even individuals, are not the same. We all have this input, we all have to give back to society in some form or another, and we have to encourage whatever growth that comes out of that, instead of saying we want to be stagnant and say we got to be at 1960s where or 1800s, where the woman was in there cooking and cleaning and the men was out getting bread. Now women can cook, clean, get bread, take care of the kids, and still have time for their husband, and vice versa, the same thing. So we can't keep being stuck in the past, because that's also a trait of growth, not being able to adapt to your environment and keep you stagnant, but keep you in the past and keep you behind.
Yeah, I really think that, sometimes, I think people don't really understand the importance of mental health.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that don't even want to dive into it because they think it's like a weakness. So have you found like people that don't even want to deal with it
Yeah.
because it's just like it's a taboo to even talk about it. So then that becomes like the first hindrance, is like you won't even address it because it's like it's not a societal norm. It's like you should just like suck it up and then not worry about it.
Which is the scariest thing ever, I would have to say, Phantom, because when we wake up, our brain is active, our perception is active. Those things are really real, and we have to take care of our brain. We have to take care of our mental health. It's really important, because if we don't, that's why you got the deaths and the suicides and the depression and anxiety and the frustration and the anger and whatever ever have you. And we have to be okay with saying, look, sometimes I have dark thoughts. Sometimes I get depressed. Sometimes things just doesn't work out for me, and I feel great anxiety, and I don't understand why. Or sometimes, I don't want to get out of the bed, because there are moments that my life take over and it becomes me, and I just get so down. We have to be okay with that. But I think it becomes like a forbidden fruit to talk about, because it's like you said, it seems as being weak. But I feel as though the only reason why it's being seen as weak, because not enough of us is talking about it. If enough of us is talking about it, it becomes a general conversation to have all the time. I was watching, I forgot what I was watching. It was one podcast with a group of men was talking about their mental health. And I was like, that's the most attractive thing, because it's women, we're all emotional. We speak about our feelings and everything. But men, they tend to hold that stuff deep inside of them, because like we gotta
Yeah.
be masculine, you know what I mean? We gotta have this macho attitude, mental health.
It's
Oh my
weak.
God. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's like when I saw that podcast of men talking amongst themselves about the things that they have to go through internally, it opened my eyes to men. I appreciate y'all a lot, because for y'all to keep on having this macho attitude and still smile, but y'all going through stuff, I'm like, for y'all to be vulnerable, that's pretty what's up, because not a lot of us talking about that. And I'm sure there was other men in the audience who was watching that really navigated towards those individuals, because it's like, dang, you got a group of men up here being vulnerable, talking about what they had to talk about, and being okay with all their flaws and all. That's much respect and much support to them, because that's what we need. We need someone to say, hey, it's okay to be this way and still live your best life. We have to generalize it. We have to make it okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of times men are kind of, get that kind of like alpha male. You got to be like, the
Yeah.
quarterback. You got to be like the NBA guy. They just focus on the six pack abs and the body. But it's like, there's multiple pillars to yourself. And
Yeah.
just because you have six pack abs, you could be dead if you have a bad mind state. There's been people that perfectly look outwardly okay, but internally they weren't. And you're like, wow, because it's not the only leg. There's the heart, the
Yeah.
mind, the body, the soul, spirit. Like
Everything.
just because you put everything into your physical doesn't mean that your head space is okay. And a lot of men are kind of taught to like, well, I gotta be that alpha, and I can't even go there. I can't even think about it. And the one thing I like being an artist is when I deal with a lot of men artists that we have to access that vulnerability.
Yeah.
And it's part of what we do as write when we write, and we're creative. You have to be willing to put that out there. And that's a
Yeah.
different type of headspace, right? And we kind of some of the modern stuff has been people have been taught to kind of not do that in certain types of genres in black music. They kind of overdoing it, like it's
Yeah.
like too much of the alpha without any of the vulnerability.
The emotional.
And if you
Yeah.
kind of you gotta have that emotional vulnerability, it's important to the muse. If it's all coming from this alpha thing, it's overwrought. It's like too much to one extreme, and it's not helping anybody else to not access that vulnerability because you need people to kind of feel.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I definitely 100% agree with that. If more of us can be okay with that part, I think the world will be a better place. I just think that so much distractions get us untuned to us internally, and if we can just be for a minute and sit with our emotions and stuff, and have that support if we have to, be vulnerable. That should be the case. Like you said, in jazz, it's very beautiful. Like they get really in touch with their emotion. They don't have to speak. They you can hear it in the notes that what they're saying.
Yeah,
And it's the beautiful thing ever, especially when you
yeah,
close
it's
your
like
eyes
yeah,
and you let
my
them and you
passion.
let it flow, and you're like, wow, I actually feel without words what this individual is trying to say to me, and I feel better as an individual that I was in that moment with them. And we need to verbally be that way too, and say, hey, this is really what's going on, and have individuals really suck it up and be in a moment with that individual too. And it's like a back and forth thing, just like music. It's a back and forth thing, and we have to all, harmonize together, if you will.
Well, you get the old school like is like a Stevie Wonder, songs in the key of life. He's like accessing a spirituality in his music and the like affirmation of the positive. Where like a lot of times in modern music, where's the people trying to do like a Bob Marley positivity, a spirituality, a Stevie Wonder level,
Yeah,
even a Marvin Gaye, what's going on type of like societal responsibility that you
yeah,
actually look at like where the environment's important. Your soul singer singing about the environment.
yeah,
That's a trick. Like where are the soul singers singing about the environment?
yeah.
you know,
I
it's
agree. I agree. Like it's not the music
yeah,
wasn't
it's
like
just
that back in the
accessing
day.
that. Yeah, well, just the feeling of not just being an egotist or alpha, and it's all hedonistic, where there's something that's a more affirmative, like the spirituality of like again Bob Marley. Even you might not agree with Rastafarianism, but the kind of the spirituality that's in that music, it
Yeah,
resonates and still pulls like people from multiple, all types of people can dig that vibe
yeah,
because there's
yeah,
something about it and it just crosses over. And that's the kind of thing that I'm looking for. Like where is that when I'm out there as a producer? Like I'm looking for people who are trying to channel, not to be Bob Marley, but inspired by
yeah,
those kind of vibes, like the Curtis Mayfields that were trying to actually feel something and show that feeling, show that passion more than just kind of like self-aggrandizement. And
yeah,
that's bad, but like you need to have some balance. I think a lot of times in life you need like spiritual balance. You need the growth. You need to have like a self-assessment to kind of know like where you
yeah.
are. Read the room.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, definitely. And with when it comes down to music or life in general, you definitely know you definitely have to know who your audience is and play accordingly, because well, from I'm not in the music industry, maybe you can, but I know from hearing others that there's a back into it, that what's popular needs to be played out, and it needs to be in the front of everybody's minds when there's certain things that's popular. But back then, they wasn't really worried about popular back then. When in the 80s and the 90s or early 2000s, they were just worrying about getting their emotions on paper and then getting their paper transferring to the mic so they can have something they can say. But now it's like, what's popular out here now?
Yeah.
Let's get this out here now because it's going to win hits. It's going to win money. It's going to do this and that for me to get rich. And it's like you're losing the value of what music originally supposed to be. It was supposed to be, or in life anyway, it's supposed to be expressing yourself. life or music, what have you, is supposed to be expressing yourself and being okay and authentic. But when you have when your perception of why you're doing something when it's not of an authentic nature, or is when it's money driven, that whole perception of what you want will definitely change. And if you came into the game trying to want money, then that's the music type of music you're going to play. But if you came into the game wanting to, or even life, you came into life wanting to actually give back, then that's what you're going to do. But
Yeah.
music should, or life should, just all of it should just be about the emotion part more than any other external factors.
If you're your authentic self in anything you do, that's gonna have, I think, a real impact that you're gonna feel. It's gonna feel honest. It's gonna cause like the law of attraction. You're gonna have the people around you that are gonna give you opportunities and things are gonna happen. It's if you're
Yeah.
keeping up with the Joneses, well, that's keeping up with the Joneses. And that's like my dad said, well,
Yeah.
it's as simple as that. It's like that's what it is. And like sometimes it's like some things are like kind of matter of fact, but it is kind of
Yeah.
classic. Like yeah,
Yeah.
like it is. That's it. That is. So
Yeah, it,
you know,
it, it
but
really is true. When I was in when I was doing work, and I was like a social worker, and I love being a social worker. I love the help, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to do more, but when you get stuck in that frame of mind, it's easy to lose yourself. It really is easy to lose yourself. So doing what you love, you become happy, you become whole, you become more in peace, more in tune with what you love to do. And I encourage anyone to do that. Be in tune with what you love to do, and don't let no one try to change that externally. Stay internal with everything you do, and you're going to be happy. It's going to flow. When you want to do something that you want to do and the universe lines up with you, everything is going to flow.
yeah, I think that's a real important thing. And before we leave, just a last couple questions I always ask everybody is what are three things about you that folks should know that they probably wouldn't expect?
Okay, what is something about me that folks wouldn't expect? Oh my god, I would say I'm complex. I mean, it's probably just an obvious thing, but I would say that I'm not a 5 minute clip. I would say that I get that in my life a lot. That oh, I didn't know that you was this, and said I actually talked to you, and then you're very intellectual, you're very this, you're very that. So I get that a lot. So I want to just say that I'm not that a 5 second clip. I'm very, I have a lot of dynamics with me. Um, Three things. My gosh, that's interesting because I didn't never asked that question before. I guess I'm very silly. I have two personalities. I'm very silly, very fun, or I'm really serious, which has come from my passion of just wanting to help others. I don't have no middle ground. It's either I'm silly like now, or I get serious when I'm talking about something. And the third one is I love everyone as much as individuals might not appreciate who I am as a human. I have no even those that hurt me. I do believe in forgiveness, and I do believe that there's no such thing as disliking someone, because if you met them that one time, it may not been that pleasant time that you met them. Like I said, humans are complex. We're not a one off that black and white. So definitely I love everyone. And I do wish everyone the best. And it's the reason why I transitioned from being a social worker to a coach and a keynote speaker, because I feel like everyone has a purpose. And yeah, those are three things. I'm complex, I'm silly or serious, and I love everyone.
That's awesome. I love that you played ball with us on that. That's a little like the new question we've been asking people. But I want to thank you for being on the Family Electric Ghost podcast. It was great. I want to remind people
Yeah.
that they can click on your link that will be fully clickable. And again, thank you for being on the show. We're going to be fully published today by midday on all the platforms you can listen to podcasts. We've been live on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. And again, thank you for being a guest on the Family Electric Ghost podcast.
Absolutely. Same thing to you. And keep up the good work and a lot of encouragement and blessings your way. Have a blessed one.
Thank you.